Well, at the moment, and the hearing has only just got underway in the last few minutes, there was a delay earlier. We were unsure how long that delay was going to be, but the hearing is now underway. What's happening is that prosecutors are making their final comments to the court and to the judge. And as you say, in the last few moments, they have said that the injuries suffered by the murder victims are difficult to explain as anything other than sadistic in nature. And they also told the court that as Axel Rudakubana was being held in a custody suite, having committed these murders, he said, "I'm glad they're dead." Prosecutors are going to continue their closing comments. What's then going to happen is that the defence team are going to suggest any mitigating factors that they would like the judge to consider. And then there are going to be victim impact statements. And I think these are going to be particularly emotional, particularly important in this case for the court to hear and for the judge to hear. And then the judge is going to go away, consider it all and return, likely later on this afternoon, to pass sentence.
Wow. Okay. So look, we've heard that he was taken to hospital in the small hours of the morning, but was in court for the start of the hearing at 11 a.m. Do we know any more about why, about what happened, about what the concern was there?
Well, government sources have confirmed to the Times that he required medical attention and was taken to hospital in the early hours of this morning, but his condition wasn't deemed serious enough to delay today's sentencing hearing. A van believed to contain Axel Rudakubana was then seen arriving at Liverpool Crown Court at about 10 to 11, with the hearing scheduled to begin at 11. But no reason for him being taken to hospital has been given, and we know that he has been segregated from other prisoners in a jail outside of Merseyside overnight and indeed for the last few days. So that's all we know at this stage.
What kind of sentence, then, is available to the judge? And I guess it's impacted by the way that Rudakubana was 17 at the time of the attack.
Yes. Because he was 17, and this, as you're aware, has prompted already today a lot of comment, he cannot be given a whole life order. Whole life orders are reserved for 21-year-olds and over. In exceptional circumstances, exceptions can be made for 18 to 20-year-olds. But because he was 17 at the time of the attack, a whole life order cannot be given. So the judge has and will give him a life term and then set a minimum period before which he's eligible for parole. But, I mean, we've heard today from senior people within the Justice Department justice profession that it is likely he will never be released. Even if he is eligible for parole at some point, that parole can be turned down and turned down and turned down until he dies in prison. But I think people want to know, and that's why it's becoming an emotionally charged issue. They want to know and have a guarantee that he will never be released. And indeed, the father of one of the girls who survived the attack has told The Sun today this very thing. He has said that because he was only days away from his 18th birthday, that Axel should rot in jail. Why should he be spared a whole life tariff when he hasn't spared a thought for any of the victims' families? Life should mean life. So that is from the father of one of the surviving children.
Well, look, there's more coming from the court as we speak. Mr. Justice Goose has ordered the Southport killer to leave the dock, as he shouted repeatedly during his sentencing at Liverpool Crown Court. The prosecutor told the court as well, this is interesting, Prosecutor Deanna Heer, KC, told the court that having researched atrocities committed by others, the evidence suggests that he set out to emulate them on the 29th of July. There is no evidence that he ascribed to any particular political or religious ideology. He wasn't fighting for a cause. His only purpose was to kill, and he targeted the youngest and most vulnerable in order to spread the greatest level of fear and outrage, which he succeeded in doing. I mean, this is, there's been this massive debate about whether this was terrorism or whether this wasn't terrorism. That doesn't really help it, because if it was terrorism, it wasn't any particularly ideologically motivated terrorism. It's very complicated.
It's very complicated, and indeed, just going back to the point about him being ejected from the courtroom, there has been a huge debate in the last couple of years about whether people who've committed incredibly serious crimes should have to attend their own sentencing, because some have refused to, and that has caused immense hurt and distress to the families of victims. We know that there are dozens of victims' family members in the courtroom today, and Axel Rudakubana himself has entered the dock and started shouting, and the judge has to consider all things, including the identity of the people who are in the courtroom. And so he has clearly taken the decision that the sentencing cannot continue in that state.
When would you expect that we're going to hear a sentence then?
Later on this afternoon. Exactly when, unsure.
Look, Alex Dibble, thank you very much indeed. And now a bit of breaking news for you. The Southport attacker was rushed to hospital before his sentencing hearing this morning, the Times has revealed. We can get some more details from Matt Dathan, the Times Home and News Affairs editor. Hello, Matt.
Good morning.
What do we know, Matt? What's happened?
Well, yeah, before he was due in court, he was in the early hours this morning. We've learnt that he was taken to hospital, requiring medical attention. Now, we don't know the reason for that, and it wasn't serious enough to keep him in hospital, and the sentencing is going ahead as planned right now.
And I mean, do we know much about where he was being held beforehand? Was he in isolation? Was he by himself? Were there others with him?
We understand that he was held in segregation, as would be the norm, especially for this kind of serious offender, and also given he is also young, no longer a child. He's 18 now, but he was being held in a jail, an unknown jail, but not in the Merseyside area, so outside of the Merseyside area.
Right. Okay. And look, but the hearing, as we understand it, is going ahead this morning as normal.
That's right. He was. We've had it confirmed that he was taken to hospital early this morning, but he's arrived, and there's been a helicopter sort of charting his journey to police helicopter charting his journey to the court, and he's been taken in, and the sentencing hearing is going ahead as planned.
What time do we expect a sentence this afternoon, or this morning?
That's the question. Yeah, that's the question we've all been trying to get an answer to. I mean, even people in government don't know. We expect it could be taking quite a long time because we expect there to be up to about 20 victim statements read out. That comes after the prosecution and potentially the defence making mitigating statements, and then the sentencing from the judge. We don't expect that to come before sort of early afternoon at the earliest, really.
I mean, there's enormous public and indeed political interest in this case. The government must be watching very closely to see what the sentence is. Do we expect the government is going to respond pretty soon after the sentencing?
Yes, we expect a statement from the Prime Minister and the Home Secretary at the very least. But I think they're not going to expand too much further than an initial statement today, because they want to give the time for the families to say what they want to say, because they've obviously had quite a big shock this week, given that he wasn't expected to plead guilty on Monday, and they weren't there on Monday to hear his guilty plea, and so today is maybe potentially the only day that they will get to see justice in person being done. So they want to give the families the day to give their side of the story, I guess.
Look, the political row about this is sort of going to keep going. There's already been an inquiry announced, of course. There must be immense nervousness in government about how this all continues, even post-sentencing, right?
There's a lot of nervousness, and there has been throughout, given what happened in the summer with all the false rumours that then led to the riots, etc. There's a lot of worry that the conspiracy theories that we heard in the summer may reignite. There's fears also that something might happen to the defendant, Axel Rudakubana, given there's a lot of people out there with a lot of anger. So there's a lot that could go wrong, and I think that has added to the decision by CPS, police, and some in government to treat all the information that they have available with a lot of caution. But I think what we'll hear today is going to be the most brutal and the grimmest kind of detail that you'll ever kind of hear from a court, given the brutality of the murder of the 3 children. But I think what we'll also hear is the bravery of those involved who have actually saved a lot more lives. And what we've been told is that a lot more of those young children would have died if it wasn't for the bravery of not just the dance teacher, but also the emergency services who responded on the day.